Good afternoon, good to see you again. Oh, you probably had a few trout, maybe taken a few on the dry fly, and you're absolutely blown away by what a pleasant experience it is, sort of stalking that fish, watching it rise, and then watching it rise again to your fly. You put that perfect presentation out. Well, what if I told you you could sort of double that thrill and maybe learn to tie your own flies? Not as expensive as you think. You can get a starter kit quite cheap, really. A vise, scissors, clamps, hackle pliers, etc. And you've got to be a bit careful with the materials. You can spend an awful lot on materials, but I tend to use all sorts of improvised stuff. Like for the big pike flies, I might use old Christmas decorations. For trout flies, things like tumble dryer fluff and nymph dubbing. You know, it's amazing what you can use, really, if you use a bit of imagination. And odd feathers that you find walking around on the street or in the park or in your garden. You don't need to spend a fortune on materials. I'll just go through the very basic steps of how you can tie a fly, and furthermore I'm going to try and do it without a vise and see if I can get away with that, just to show you how what little apparatus you need to start off. And of course I'd love to hear your comments when you finally manage to rise that trout to something that you created yourself. And the initial feelings you got around that moment. The top fluff out of the tumble dryer. Okay, so we'll just see just how simple it is to actually make a nymph from some very basic materials. What I've got here is fluff from a tumble dryer. I've got what is it? I think it's Kamasan Kamasan B980 size 14 coarse fishing hook, eyed hook, of course. I've got a little bit of gold wire. Well, it's not gold, it's gold effect wire, brass wire. Bit of a feather I picked up from outside in the garden, and that's going to be about all we need to make this fly, which will catch all sorts of fish, which I'll go through in a minute. Equipment, we've got bobbin holder there, which is a concession to professional fly tying equipment. I must admit they are quite handy, these. I'm not using a fly tying vise. I've got a homemade hook whipping tool, which at a coarse angle you'll probably have one of these anyway, not necessarily a homemade one. That's mounted in a standard sort of metalworking vise. You could get away with just a piece of wood, really. Got some sharp curved scissors there, the type you cut your nails with. I've also got some straight scissors. The only difference between the two, I know these are a bit blunter and I use them for cutting the wire. These just get used for cutting thread and feathers and stuff like that, because I want to keep them sharp. And I've got a bit of this Turrell varnish that you could probably get away with DIY quick drying varnish. And the other thing I've got is the whipping tool. A lot of fly tyers don't bother with a whipping tool, they whip them by hand. Unfortunately I can't really do that, because several years or many years in the building trade has made my fingers quite rough, and the thread tends to stick on my fingers when I try to do a hand whipping knot. So I'm just going to start that thread off at the eye of the hook, winding it down. I'm just holding the tag end until it gets going. There we go, don't need it now. And I'm going to take that down roughly to the start of the bend of the hook. A lot of flies only go as far as the point of the hook, but a nymph you can take it back a bit. It's nice if it has a slight sort of curved look about it, so I usually go as far back as I can with a nymph, just onto the bend of the hook. And I'm just going to snip that little tail off there. A couple of fibres of this feather I'm going to use for a tail. If I was using the right material, it would probably be a couple of strands of pheasant tail, but like I say, you won't necessarily have that if you're just collecting odds and sods from outside. Just trying to show you how to save a bit of money on materials. So there we are, that's the tail. I'm just going to break the fibres up a bit there to let them spread out. I'm going to trap a bit of wire in. Cut that on my straight scissors, because I'm not too bothered about blunting those. Maybe about, I don't know, maybe 9 centimeters of wire for this. I'm going to trap that in on the body, just wind the thread around it. Get it nice and tight. This is quite a fine thread, so I can't over tighten or else I'll break it off. And I'm just going to wrap the thread right down just about to where that tail is with the thread. There we go. Take a pinch of this, let's say the grey fluff from the tumble dryer. I'm just going to wind it around that thread. Make a bit of a sort of rope round it. Don't really need to do this, you can just pinch it in and spread it out really. Push that up. And I'm just going to trap that in quite randomly. Looks like nothing on earth at the moment, but we'll just pull that surplus away. And just tease it with the point of the scissors. And I'm going to wind this wire back the opposite direction to the tying thread. Pull that back. And I'm going to put a little bit of a build up of it there at the head, just to give it a little bit of weight, so that punches through the surface film nicely. The purpose of the wire is to bind it together and also give the body a bit of a segmentation like an insect, and it also gives it a little bit of flash as well. There's our tail. There's the body of the insect, and I'm just going to put a little bit of a wing hump on it. Now to do that, choose a bit of darker section of that feather. This is, like I said, this is just stuff I've picked up outside. I'm not sure what it is, whether it's from a starling or from a pigeon or something. I haven't got a clue. And what we'll do is just trap that in like that. Pull those fibres round, and without pulling them down too tight, so there's just a little bit of a hump, I'm just going to take that thread over and trap it just there behind the eye. Trim these off, and that's a very simple but effective nymph pattern that will catch fish. And in fact, I'm going to go out with it later and catch a trout with it. I'm so confident. Tying off tool. I'll just go through that again. Right, put a few turns of silk around the head, just behind the eye when I'm going to finish it. Now, to start off with, I'm just going to trap a crook of thread in that longer wire there. I'm going to trap the thread in the more solid bit at the end, and I'm just going to bring that round and fold that over. Give it maybe 4 or 5 turns. Then I'll lose that loop on the top there and pull that one right back. So the loose wire there is trapped in that loop. Gently let it go and pull this tight, and that's a nice secure whipping knot. Now I'm going to put a little blob of varnish just on the head of that. Find a bit of wire off the bench. There we go. Long needle's probably the best thing for this. I'm just going to dab a tiny bit of varnish on the head of that fly there, just to secure that whipping knot. And I'm going to put a dab of varnish on that wing case that we folded over. And before I leave it, I'm going to cut a tiny bit of wire. I'm going to push that through the eye of the hook and make a little bit of a crop with it. That will prevent the varnish from setting in the eye, which I'm going to go and catch a trout with. Well, down at the little stream near home, and I'll see if I can catch a fish for you on this tumble dryer fluff nymph. Oh yes, there we go, that's not bad. Yeah. Oh, nice one there. Oh. What a lovely trout. Tumble dryer fluff nymph. There we go. Let's give him out. Yep. Thank you very much for that, my mate. Back you go. Try a dry fly while we're at it.